Hello, welcome back to Big Bell Automations. We are on day 12. If you don't know what we're doing here, we are slowly but surely, day by day, learning n8n together. I'm stripping back all my experience and we're starting from the start. I highly recommend going back to day one. I'll put the link on the page somewhere to go through it step by step, get yourself hosted up and running and everything. So we're all on the same page. Today, we are looking at expressions and what expressions are in n8n and unlocking one of the most powerful features that we've got at our disposal. Right. So think of expressions as the secret sauce that transforms static workflows into your dynamic workflows and your personalized automations. By the end of this video, you'll know how to make your workflows respond intelligently to any data that flows through them. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on and like, comment, get involved. It really helps the channel. So please subscribe. It keeps me motivated. Thank you. So what are expressions in n8n? So what exactly is one? Think of them as your workflow's way of saying, remember the data that you had previously? You can have it if you want it. Come and get it. So let's do a visual representation. Here's your coffee order process. We have a customer order. The trigger initiates the process. We're going to order. We've got the order details, so specifies the order. And then the expression puts the personalization on the cup. So Big Bear ordered cappuccino, no chocolate, and a biscotti biscuit, please. That is my order. Thank you. And then it obviously moves on to your actions, which is your workflow stuff. In n8n, expressions work exactly the same way. They grab data from previous nodes. So here would be the customer's name, and then use it dynamically in any nodes afterwards. That's all it is. So static versus dynamic content. Static content that remains constant across that stays static content is the same every time. Welcome to our service. Your order is ready. That sort of thing is a static content. Dynamic content changes based on the data. Welcome, Big Bear, or your large cappuccino is ready with no chocolate and a biscotti biscuit to go. Big Bear. Your order is ready. Dynamic is Big Bear. Your large cappuccino is ready, using the data that it's got previously. So expressions are really just what turns static content into dynamic, personalized experiences. You can use expressions in almost any field in n8n. So I'll give you an example. Let's go here. Anything that has this little icon, this one, this one, this one. So when you click expression, this one comes up and you can open it. You can get to your expressions window. So let's have a little play, right? Let's start with the fundamentals. So if we go in here and we say, this is a expression. Hope if I can type. We're gonna click expression and we're gonna open up our expression window. All n8n expressions are wrapped in double curly braces. So what that looks like is like that. So what that does is opens up this window of suggested fields or suggested functions or anything that they think that this would make sense to start using, or a common thing that you'd use when you started your expression. So in this example, if we said JSON, let's execute the previous nodes to get it. So if we said JSON dot, and then you've got your test on the screen there, which is that. So that's how you would get to it if you were typing this out, right? So JSON points to the JSON data. The dot gets to the test field name. There are other ways of doing this. So you can do it like square brackets, like so. Same result as that. It's just a different way if you're used to typing it that way. I normally do dot notation, so dot test, to get that result, just because I find that easier than trying to put square brackets in. So another way to do that is just to drag it in. So you can drag it from here, paste, drop it in, and then if we said that, your result is test test, which is the same thing. Cool. So let's say we have data from the previous node, right? So we've got test here. So if I go and add some more data in, so we've got it. Let's say name is BBA, age is 1000, very old. I test that, and then when we come in here and open up our expression window, we have access to those different variables inside of that item. So again, you can do it the manual way, JSON.name, or we can drag it in and not delete it. We can drag it in like so. Again, same concept, double JSON.age. If you wanted it like that, you could just drag it in, and there's your result on the right hand side. So same, simple across all of it, as long as it's within that JSON structure. It's quite simple to get to it. Okay, so we've seen this multiple times where I've created a Gmail node. We're going to send a message, and this time we're going to execute the previous nodes, which gives us access to this data. But we haven't really touched on what we're doing here. So what we could do is, if we know the name was going to be this, the email address, so at, and then added on at gmail.com, we could make it dynamic via the expressions that are pulling in the data from previous nodes. So if there's a database of loads, you could put it all in and send one to each individual data, each individual email address. Subject, again, expression, open up your window, hello, and we're going to look at the name from the previous node. This is the subject. So you're getting the gist, right? We're dragging in the variables from the previous nodes and getting them into wherever we need it dynamically, which is what all expressions are all about. So let's build a more sophisticated email that shows you a bit more of the power of expressions. So let's create a more personalized one. So what I'm going to do is add more data in to this one. No, not that one. That's me playing around with stuff. Into this one. So we've got first name, which is going to be Dave. We got last name, it's going to be Kim. We've got email, going to be Dave at Kim. Apologise if that's a real email. Company, spelt wrong. Company is test company. God, I cannot spell today. Company. Plan. Enterprise. And we're going to go features and give it an array. And that array is going to be advanced support and okay, so let's test that, and we're going to call this advanced email. Okay, so now we've got the advanced email demo here. Let's create a personalized welcome email. So to execute previous nodes. So we're going to go to email address, which is from our previous node. The subject is going to be welcome to the enterprise plan. And then we can open up the text, the expression, open up this little window because it's open up this little window because it's easier to see. And then we can just be like, dear thank you for singing the enterprise plan. Here are your features. One. Now, obviously, we would probably make this a bit more dynamic where it iterates through how many we've got, but because we know we've got 3 and we're testing at the moment, it will do. There we go. So now you can see the sort of stuff we can start building out with this at a more dynamic level. And you can start personalize it. So a really good example of this would be your outreach and nurture. So if you're getting a load of leads through a form, you want to nurture them and email straight away, you can do that and just get all the information from the form and send an automatic email back so you don't miss your clients. So let's have a look a bit more around the complex data structures. So if we get a set node, which is this one, and that's me messing around with it. And if we delete a few of these, delete that one, delete one, yeah, we got this one, and we're going to create a user with a nested JSON structure. So what that looks like is if we put an object in, call it nested, in here, we're going to have nested name, BBA. So test that. So now we've got a nested customer inside another object. So this is what they call a nested data source. So how do we access this? So if we come out of this and go here, and we'll get rid of that for now, and we'll go test nested. So if we go to the expression, we can drag over if we want to, but we're going to do this manually for now. So open up your double quotes, you go JSON dot nested customer dot name, and that will give us the name inside the nested. So that's your dot notation. And it's the same concept if you drag it over. So if I drag this one over, it would do the same thing, as you can see. So it's a lot easier to drag it over, but I want to make sure that we know what it's doing behind the scenes. So now that we've had a little bit of a look at the nested stuff, what else can we do inside of this expression stuff, expression functionality? Because there is quite a bit we can do. So for example, we've now got the dot name. Well, what if we didn't like the format of it, right? We can set it to lowercase. What if we wanted it uppercase for things like condition logic and stuff? You want to make sure it's all in the same format to test, to check against a database. What if we only wanted the first two? We only wanted the last two letters. So that you get your start, and then obviously you can put in an end as well if you wanted to. But you can only get one. But we want the first two letters, the last two letters, so it gets rid of the first letter. Cool. So this is all good, but actually we just want the name. What else can we do? So let's have a look. Why don't we start with looking at date? So we want the time and we want it now. This gives us the timestamp of right now. What if we wanted the date in an ISO string from ISO? Nope, not UTC. Cool. Yeah, so it just gives us in a different format. What if we wanted it in our local? So here we can go like that, or we can just say if we wanted to manually add in our own date, we could just do this. So 2025 is actually the 5th of the 2nd, the 20th, and that would give us that particular date. So you can hard code dates in. What else have we got in here to play with? So we've got maths. So we can do math round, and that will round the figure that you put in. So for example, if we had a decimal point, it will round it to the nearest. And you can pass in dynamic data into here as well. So if JSON nested customer name was a number, you can pass that in and it will round it for you to get it into a format that you want it to be. So there's lots of different things we can do in here. There are quite a few functions. If statements, so your conditions, and get your true. So give you an example. If JSON, if JSON dot nested dot nested customer dot name is equal to VBA or VBA, then return true, else false. Oh, I don't like that. That's because, oh no, that should work. And then whenever you mess up, like me, most of the time, just go over to ChatGPT and say, format this correctly for n8n, please. Why do I say please? Does anyone else say please? Is it just me? I don't know. So as you can see, it doesn't like dot notation for some reason. Oh no. That should have worked. There we go. True. And then if it was that, false. And if it was this, it would be false. But actually, you might want to be like, actually, like, I want to check it all in the same case. And then it would be true. So once you get the formatting right, it's actually quite powerful. So we're going to look at some error handling now for missing fields. So if I try to access JSON dot phone number, right, and we know that that doesn't exist because we haven't created it, we get undefined. And that can obviously break our workflow. So you can find different values if it weren't to find it. So if I can find my pipe button, wherever that is. God, my keyboard sucks. I need to get a new keyboard. Found it somewhere. I know it is. It's pipe button. Sorry, I had to pause it because I couldn't find my pipe button because my keyboard sucks. I ended up copying it somewhere else. So you had two pipes in, which is your OR operator. And then you can say something like not provided. So what you're doing there is phone number doesn't exist, so you're providing not provided. It means one, it's still successful, and you can give some value over, and two, you're not breaking your workflow. So we can also do something a bit more cooler, I suppose. So we can have complex logic. So for example, if JSON dot first name then we're going to say hello JSON dot first name, and if that fails, then we're gonna say actually just say hello there. So what that's doing is checking to see if JSON first name is available. If it is, then do hello first name. If it's not, then just say hello there. So it means that one, we're not breaking our workflow, and two, we get this cool syntax in terms of getting some more text in there, a little bit more dynamicness. So if we actually make this work, so nested customer dot name, and then if we do nested customer dot name, oh, it breaks. Hold on. Okay, now back. Dot name. Then we will get hello BBA, because obviously BBA exists in here, which is pretty cool. So you can do some really cool error handling. So basically the question mark operator just evaluates if any part of the chain is missing, is all it is. And if it is, then use the default. And if it isn't, then and it isn't available, use the default. So we're going to go on to advanced expression tips now. I think we've got the gist of what an expression is, what we can do with it, how we can play around with it, and we can do a bit more with expression. So we're going to go and have a look at what that looks like. So obviously we can combine multiple fields, so first name, last name, which is obviously great. We can format addresses, so address, we can do like address street plus the address city plus the address zip, even though it's separate data, which is really good. And we can do conditional formatting, which is this sort of stuff here, which we now know about. So we can go a step further, and that's arrays. So we can have a look at those now. So looking at arrays, we can do some cool stuff with arrays. So some simple ones is, let's get the length. So how many items are in the array? There's 3. Let's do some cool stuff with joining them. So we can do join, and it joins them all with a comma. So this is one string now. We can give it a space. We can give it the comma that we need and a space. We can give it a dash, etc. So you can format it however you'd like. We'll keep it as that for now. And then we can do things like, how do I access the first item? Again, we could just copy it in from here, but you might not know it. So you might dynamically want the last item, etc. The first item. Next is we've got some date stuff, which we've kind of gone over up here anyway. And we've got some string manipulation to go through. So string manipulation obviously is going to be used quite a bit. And a good example of this is what I messed around with earlier. So what we can do is split. It's not a good example. Let me change something first. So we can do some really cool stuff. Again, we can go to AI and ask for stuff, but I'm trying to show you one. Okay, cool. So we can do some cool stuff with the string manipulation, and here's an example of what we can do. So we can bring in the email, and then we can split it. If I can type, and then we can split that by the at symbol. I need a keyboard. The at symbol, And then we can take the last one in the split that gives us the domain name for their email address. If you ever want the domain, you can get it like that, which is a pretty cool use case. Again, there's quite a few things that we can do, and there's quite a lot of advanced techniques. So look up the functionalities, the splits, the mapping, all that sort of stuff. You can have a look at and figure out what the best way to do it. If you need help, comment, and I'll add in the formula that you need. So let's wrap up. So we've done a lot on expressions today, which is probably one of the biggest things, features that we use in n8n. So we've used basic expressions, we've created personalized and dynamic content, we've handled nested data structures, we've used the expressions editor, seen the results, and handled missing data gracefully, and we've applied advanced expression techniques. So if this has opened up your eyes to the world of expressions, please hit the button, subscribe, like, comment, get involved. It's all about growing the community and seeing what we can do together. So it'd be great to hear from you, and I will see you tomorrow for day 13. Thank you.